session is supported by Psychology, which is the conference gold sponsor. The keynote speaker is Terry Cutler, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Psychology Labs. He is also the author of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, Insider Secrets to Internet Safety, Advice from a Professional Hacker. He will be talking about insider secrets to how hackers are getting in and why. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Terry Cutler.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Loud and clear.
Excellent. All right. So let me start the show. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Oops, I forgot. Let me just share my audio as well.
Terry Cutler is an international award-winning cybersecurity expert and ethical hacker known for his catchy online videos, numerous television appearances, live public speaking events, extensive coaching products, and top-level consulting services. Over the past 20 years, he's advised some of Canada's largest companies on how to prevent and remedy internal and external security penetration. For the general public, he developed an effective online learning program called Internet Safety University. With over 24,000 students from over 150 countries, he's helped educate his pupils on cybercrime, spying, security failures, internet scams, and the real social networking dangers that families and individuals face every day. Terry was named IFSEC Global's top 20 most influential people in cybersecurity for 2018 and again in 2019, and was also awarded 2017 Cybersecurity Educator of the Year Award. Please welcome your host, Terry Cutler.
Hey everyone, and I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I got to tell you, I'm both challenged and excited. I'm excited because I get to get back about a topic I'm so fondly passionate about, but I'm challenged because this topic can usually last about 5 hours, and I got to crunch this down to like 30, 45 minutes for you. So throughout this presentation, my promise to you is that you're going to understand how and why hackers are getting in, and you're going to also learn how to protect your business, right? Because we don't want to have possibly another cyber attack happening with your organization. So,
Terry, sorry to interrupt you, but can you share your video? We cannot see you, Terry.
Oh, I did.
We can see you.
It's visible.
Like this?
Okay.
Sir, you're visible.
Can you see me or no? Because my camera's on.
Yes, we can see you, sir. We can see you, sir.
Even like this?
Yes, we can see you. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So that's it. So by this presentation, you're gonna have a better understanding of how and why hackers are getting in. All right. So what we're seeing is that a lot of organizations believe that they are not the target of a cyber attack, right? Because a lot of folks say, well, I have an IT guy, I got it covered. And they also don't understand that when you get hit with a ransomware, you are down for a minimum of 100 hours. Okay, and that's just to start off with. It's a very, very painful process if you've never gone through one, or possibly even hear horror stories from other companies who have gone through it. So by this presentation, you're also going to see that there's two types of companies: those that know who's been hacked and the ones that don't know it yet. So here's the flow of the agenda. We're going to talk about how the hackers are getting in. I'm going to show you why they're getting in. And then we're going to cover, if we have time, how to get started with cybersecurity. And then my favorite part of the show, which is the Q&A. So I'm the founder of Psychology Labs, right? So we do all kinds of various audits and monitoring services for clients around the world. Report card audits, penetration testing, phishing and training, dark web monitoring. So you can learn about that in the virtual booth. So enough about me. Google's your friend if you want to learn more. So in this presentation, I'm going to share with you 3 core secrets. So the first one is how a whopping 78% of small businesses are actually being targeted by cyber criminals. A lot of folks think, well, I'm too small to get hacked. No one's going to want to hack me. But in fact, small businesses are the #1 target right now because they know that you don't have the time, money, or resources to handle cybersecurity. So they're using you as a jump point to attack another company. So when the other company does their forensic analysis, they're going to come back and say, oh, it was you that did this. And you have to go and prove that it wasn't you. And there's a whole legal battle. It gets really, really messy. The second one is going to be around how 60% of small businesses are actually going to fold within 6 months of a cyber attack. Now, I've seen this happen where companies will get a data breach and their fees will go from $10,000 to almost $6 million in a very rapid period of time. So the biggest issue we're seeing right now is that most companies cannot detect that there's a hacker in their system right now. So obviously, I'm pretty sure that this is a fear of yours right now. And the other problem we're having right now, and this is kind of an epidemic with cybercrime, because we are 3 million personnel short in our industry. So there's not even enough of us to protect you. So it's very important that you understand and implement some detection systems in place to know that there's a hacker in there. And I'm going to share with you also what the best cybersecurity experts know that you don't. So there's I'm also going to share with you as well how these data breaches occur and how it can get very, very expensive very quickly. So here's the top 10 issues that we're facing in cybersecurity right now, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. All of us have the same issues. So the first one is phishing attacks. This is the #1 way hackers are getting in, because the hackers and scammers are getting lazier and lazier, and they don't want to be detected trying to hack your firewall, right? Why would they go through all this trouble when all I have to do is send you a crafty looking email and have you click on a link that you're not supposed to? The other issue, which is really, really big right now, is around ransomware. It's very, very destructive form of online extortion. And now they've gotten really clever. They're at the point where they not only hold your data hostage for a large sum of money, but now what they do is before they encrypt you, they copy out your data first. And this way, if you're able to recover from your backup, they can say, well, you know what? Pay me now or I'm going to leak your data. And then you're going to get hit with privacy fines and all kinds of other lawsuits possibly. It gets very, very, very messy. And in fact, I even saw this happen with a company that I was working with, where a former employee, it was an IT guy, that got revenge on their employer for they felt was an unlawful termination, and they got in and ransomwared the company. The other issue is around cloud storage. This is where the companies are not blocking things like Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, and employees are copying sensitive data onto those drives and synchronizing it outside the company. And the IT folks can't see that happening. So now you're copying out sensitive data without the knowledge of the enterprise. And that can lead to regulatory fines as well. You'll see attacks against legitimate websites. This is where your website could possibly be attacked, and the malicious cyber criminals will inject code into it. So every visitor that shows up will download maybe an infected PDF. And when they open up the files, their network will get infected or their computer will get infected. Compromised, lost, or stolen devices. The whole bring your own device era, or how I like to call it, bring your own disaster, right? You got employees bringing computers back to the office, and they're copying sensitive data to it, and next they're forgetting it in a taxi cab. Okay, this is very, very common. Then we have problems with failure of understanding information security. So employees don't understand who's using the data, how they're using it, or even the importance of it. They figure that, if there's a data breach, IT's got it covered. Well, it's not the case, right? Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. And then we have an issue with poor response. This is where most companies don't have a detection system in place to know that there's a hacker in their system, which is why the hackers get in and stay there 6 to 18 months prior to being detected, right? So once the hacker is in there, he's got time to do some recon in your environment and possibly even launch a ransomware attack, right? And and most companies don't have a clue how to even know that they're there. Then we have problems also with employees. Some of the employees feel that they're underpaid, overworked, and they have a problem with upper management, and they start stealing secrets and selling it, thinking that they're not going to get caught. And in fact, most companies that we investigate as well, they don't even have any systems in place to detect that there's confidential data leaving the company. Then we have an issue with outdated software. So whenever I get hired to do intrusion tests, I still come across Windows XP. Now you might be thinking, Terry, who on earth would still run that software? Well, here's the issue that we're seeing is that some companies, especially in healthcare, they've got software that doesn't run on newer technology, such as the system that controls the door locks to your company, for example. So they're forced to still run on Windows XP or Windows 7. So you have to keep that in mind that you still might be lagging this technology. And then finally, we have a problem with stolen passwords. With all these data breaches that are happening, people are reusing the same password everywhere. So if a real estate company gets breached, let's say, and you registered an account with that social media site using the company's domain, there's a data leak that'll happen, and then the passwords will get decrypted. And I'll show you some of this in the presentation. So let me show you a couple of very quick case studies. So a couple of years ago, MyFitnessPal, which is an application on your phone that tracks your diet and your training, they got a data breach where almost 150 million records were stolen. Then we have LinkedIn, also got a data breach, 167 million. And then we had Marriott, 500 million customer accounts. Now, I know you're thinking, Terry, why on earth do I care about this stuff? Well, there's actually something really in common with all these three companies. They all got breached, they all lost data, and worst of all, they have no idea who did it. Okay, and this is a recurring occurrence with all these data breaches that are happening in the media right now. So you'll see that, and you'll see that the numbers actually speak for themselves. So 95% of large organizations are actually targeted every minute with malicious traffic. The average cost of a data breach is $6 million. Again, I didn't believe it was possible, but when I did a penetration test on a company, I sent them an invoice for $10,000, let's say, and but what happened was the hacker was already in their system. So when I sent him the final report, the hacker was reading the CEO's emails, and when he got my report, he got to see all the other vulnerabilities in the company, and he leveraged that information to attack other systems and ransomwared them. And you'll see that 54% of data breaches remain undiscovered for months. And the average cost of a data breach is about $255 per record. And it really does take about 100 days to resolve a cyber attack. So let's quickly talk about how the hackers are getting in. So I want to share with you kind of the methodology of what happens when we do an intrusion test with a company, and the hackers kind of follow the same process. Now, here's the thing. When I say hackers, okay, I actually mean cyber criminals. So you guys ready to see how it's done? So first, I want to just get this disclaimer out of the way that shows you, like, I don't want to be responsible because I showed you how to hack, okay? Because I don't want to end up in a trunk of a car. Got it? So here we go. So the first phase of any attack that's going to happen is the reconnaissance phase. This is where the attacker is going to try and get as much information about you and your organization as possible, and then launch a cyber attack against you. So they want to know everything about your company, everything from who the company is, what you specialize in, where you're based, how many employees you have, who's your ISP, who's your vendors, who the CEO is, and then maybe where the CEO's kids go to school. Now you might be thinking, okay, Terry, why do you care about where the kids go to school? Well, imagine I find out where the CEO lives. And there's a good chance now, especially now when most of us are working from home, there's a good chance that their home network is less secure than the corporate network. So I can drive up to his house and use a device like this called the Wi-Fi Pineapple. This would allow me to try and intercept and hack his wireless network. And as he's communicating on his network, he might be visiting Amazon.com, and I can maybe decrypt his password, which might be the same password to his email at his office. So we never know what we're going to find. So the whole goal here is to build our little battle plan so we know more about the organization and build a better targeted attack. The other place I might go to is Google. And I could say, okay, Google, show me the top financial accounting firms in the UAE. And boom, there they are. And then what I would do is I would approach one of you guys and speak to maybe your sales guy and ask for his business card. And I'm sure you've never met a I'm sure you've never met a salesperson that doesn't talk too much, right? They love to talk about the inner workings of their company and how their systems work. And they're really divulging a lot of information. So when I receive their business card, the business card itself actually gives me a ton of information. It's going to give me his name. It's going to give me a phone number where I can social engineer somebody. It gives me his email where I can try and phish him. But what's interesting is that the first part of his email is the username to the system, the user account. So now I get to see how the email structure is set up at your company. And then what I would do is I would use open source intelligence tools to find out who you are online. And then I would find out who you're connected to, maybe who they're connected to, and how you're all mutually connected. And this will allow me to, get a better picture and possibly send you a phishing attack. So this way, it's not going to be your typical Viagra emails, right, that we all get in spam. This will be a really legitimate email. And we never know what we're going to uncover, because during the search, I may even uncover how your network is set up. I'll get the IP addresses, where your servers are located. I'll see all of this stuff. And another place I might look is on job board postings, news for employment. So here's a real example of a company called Blue Sun that was looking for an IT administrator. So let me zoom in a bit on this job post. Can you tell me what's wrong with this job post? Let me give you my hacker glasses. What's happening is here, you're actually telling me what's running in the company. You got VMware, you have to have good knowledge of SQL and Windows XP. See, they need XP. So they have all these systems in place. But here's the problem. There's no choice for these guys to post a job post like this, because they'll get anybody applying for this job, right? So they need to get specific candidates. So you got to get specific. But when they do this, they actually reveal what's happening inside the company. Another search I might do on Google is an advanced search, like all in URL exchange /logon.asp. Now, it might sound gibberish to most of you, but this actually asks Google, show me everybody that has a misconfigured Microsoft Exchange server. And in my case, I wanted to be a bit more specific. I added site:/.ca, which shows me everybody in Canada with a misconfigured system. And then our friends at Urgence Santé, which is our ambulance service, has a misconfigured one. So if I click on their link, I get to see the portal for them to log into. And oh, look, it even has a phone number in case I ever forgot my password. Another thing I might do is I might go back in time on the internet to this one's called the Wayback Machine. So in another demonstration I did for the mining industry, I went back in time and visited Goldcorp from 2004. They might be saying, Terry, why on earth would you want to go back in time to see some garbage looking website like this? And the reason for this is because back in the day, when the websites were being built, the administrators sometimes used to leave comments in the code that says, hey, Larry, if you want to update the website, here's the username and password. And over time, as the IT administrators change hands and stuff, these passwords get forgotten. And they forget to change these passwords. So we never know what we're going to find. All right. So now what's actually really scary about all this right now is that I haven't even touched your system yet. I found all this information from publicly available sources. And then once I've got my little battle plan all ready to go, I know what systems are live and such. I want to know what software exists on these IP addresses that I found. I want to know their vulnerabilities. I want to know if they're actually online. I want to find out all this stuff. So we might use a tool like Nessus, for example, that's going to go out and scan all these systems that I found and tell me what vulnerabilities exist everywhere. And it'll even pump out a nice little report for me that says, hey, concentrate on these critical or high vulnerabilities, and there's a good chance it'll let you in. And I can get even more detailed on it. So now that I know what vulnerabilities exist, the attacker is going to go to the next phase, which is gaining access. This is where he's going to launch exploits against these vulnerabilities and actually get into your system. And when they get into your system, we find such juicy information, okay? We find things like scanned passports, list of user accounts, digital signatures, void checks. We find, we even, in some cases, I actually found nude employee photos, okay? This was really strange. So I did a test on a company, got access to their server, and I see these photos. I'm like, wait a second, this person's like 4 cubicles over from where I'm sitting. It's like, I know what you did last summer. So another problem that we find is around terrible passwords, like a John 123. So how many of you guys on this conference right now have a really terrible password? Okay, so let me quickly show you how you can create a nearly unbreakable password. So to create an unbreakable password, you want to have a combination of uppercase, lowercase, and numbers in your password. And to create a strong password, you want to have between 16 and 25 characters long. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Is this guy nuts? Like, how are you going to remember a password this long? So let me just quickly show you how you can think of song lyrics or phrases to help you build your password. So here's an example. I had a great day at work 2021. Okay, pretty simple so far. So what I like to do is remove the spacing, capitalize each letter of the word, and this password alone will take 10 years to break. And there's a good chance that this password is stronger than what you have right now. But since we're here to up our game, our security game, if you replace the O's with a 0 and the A's with an @ symbol, this thing will take like 39 centuries to crack. That is until I actually hacked the server. I just felt the whole room deflate. So here's what I see when I hack a server. I could see, for example, username Nina, and there's a whole bunch of gibberish after her account. Well, that is actually her username and password all encrypted. And I can use an attack called pass the hash, which I'm not talking about the good old college days here, folks. This is an actual attack where I can use this information and sign in as you without ever knowing your password. And that's known as what's called credential stuffing. That's what's happening now. All these companies are being breached. And as their passwords are being cracked, they're being reused. And sometimes you may even get an extortion email. It's actually called a sextortion email. What happens is you might receive an email saying, hey, Jeffrey, you don't know me, but your password is this. And it's your real password. And now you're freaking out like, oh my God, how did he get my password? And it's because they've decrypted your code, your password, and they're sending you an email associated to the account. So that's why it's critically important that you enable what's called two-step verification. This is where you're going to enter you're going to enroll your cell phone number into the system. And then as you log in, a text message will come to your phone with a random code in order for you to sign in. But here's something that I want to get you aware of, another scam that just happened. This is called the port out scam. So last year I had a guest on my live show named Allison. She had two-factor authentication on all her accounts. But what happened was one of her accounts didn't have it, which was an old Hotmail address that she never used. It's only spam in there. But what happened was they got access to her security questions that she reused everywhere. And then they called her phone provider and they managed to transfer out her phone number to another service provider. And when they did that, they were able to gain control of all their two-step verification passwords and tokens. So you need to call up your service provider and ask to activate port out protection. And once it's activated, you'll receive a text message saying, hey, port protection has been added to your account. What this means is that you can't necessarily transfer out your phone number easily to another service provider. Because what happens is, for us, it's called the FTC regulation. Usually, if you have a problem with a service provider, it should be no hassle for you to switch over to another provider with no trouble. But when you do that, the hackers can do the same thing. But now when you activate port protection, you have to show up in person with identification in order for you to switch the service. So it's another added layer of protection. Another thing you want to check is to see if you're actually possibly a target of a cybercrime. So there's a website that exists called Have I Been Pwned? So how do you get there? Just go to Google and type in Have I Been, and all of a sudden it's going to auto-fill it for you. Now this website is it has a list of all of these breached data. So what happens is you're going to enter your email address into the system, and it's going to tell you if you're part of a data breach. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Like you don't know where you're giving this email to. So this website is run by a guy named Troy Hunt, who is the Microsoft security guy. So he's a security guy who works for Microsoft, and he built this website for convenience so that he can, so that you can find out if you're actually part of a data breach. So in my case, I'll put my email, terry@terrycutler.com, and boom, it tells me that my email has been found in various data breaches. And so that would be assigned to change your password. Now, I mentioned earlier in the opening of the presentation that we launched a dark web monitoring service. And you can actually get a free assessment at psyologylabs.com/darkweb, and I'll show you what the report will look like. So you'll tell me what your company domain is, and I'll run a report for you at no charge, because we monitor over 500,000 locations of where your data might exist. And we're going to come back and say, okay, well, here's all this list of all your user accounts, and here's a list of all the passwords that have breached from various locations. And we'll tell you when it was found, and here's a portion of the real password. And this way you'll be able to see that, oh my God, this password is the one I use, and I need to change it. Okay? So again, you can get a free assessment at psyologylabs.com/darkweb. Now, another part of my job is called social engineering, the psychological manipulation of people. This is where I befriend you, gain your trust, and then you're going to give me you're typically going to give me information that you wouldn't give out usually, and then I'm going to use it against you in a cyber attack. How's that for a friend? So let me give you three real case studies that I did, and a real demonstration. So many years ago, I was hired to hack into a company from the outside, and I just couldn't do it. Their system was really, really strong and impenetrable. So I said, screw it, I'm going over there. So I dressed casually and walked into their office, and I walked up to the receptionist and I said, I feel really embarrassed. May I please use your washroom? And I was driving all day, got the kids in the car, big glasses of water. I promise it'll never happen again. And luckily, she said, make it quick. And when I was in there, I left 2 USB keys in the stalls. And as I left, I said, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It'll never happen again. And then 2 hours later, a curious employee plugged it in, which auto ran my software and let me into the back door, allowed me to compromise their system. So this trick hasn't failed me yet. Okay. So in other cases, like if other people wouldn't let me use their washroom, I would just, pretend I'm leaving. And all of a sudden I would pretend I found a USB key on the floor, hand it off to the receptionist, and, they sometimes plug it in. Another case I did on a retail company, I walked into one of their stores and I looked for the least looking paid employee that had his headphones on that was stocking the shelves. And I said, hey, I'm from IT. I'm doing an upgrade on your system. Can you let me into the server room in the back? And he said, okay. So he brought me to the back and he showed me where the server room was. And I said, okay, I'm in the right location. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go for lunch and I'm going to come back with my colleagues and we're going to finish the upgrade. So we go for lunch and I come back with my 2 colleagues who are also ethical hackers. And I went to see the same employee and he said, okay, here's the key. And, never asked us who we are, never asked us what we're doing there, who we work for. And we were in the lunchroom and all of our equipment was all over the tables. Their own employees couldn't even come in to have lunch. And nobody asked us who we are, what we're doing there. And within 3 hours, compromised the entire company. We even had access to create our own access cards. So it's so it was so crazy that we had to take a selfie and send it to the manager. So then when we went back to headquarters, there was photos of this, there was printouts of this photo all over the door saying, now you need to know why you have to watch out for hackers. So it's a pretty funny thing. So here's a real demonstration I did. In 2015, I was a guest for an organization here called Finance Montreal, and I was doing a real life demonstration of hacking. But what's cool is that somebody tweeted about my event a couple nights before. And I said, okay, I'm going to make this thing ultra realistic. I'm going to show the audience how I can target somebody online from what they've posted and possibly gain access to their system in a legitimate way. So long story short, when I did the recon for this company, I found out that there was a system that they use what's called a time management system to enter their time for their consultants. And so I said, okay, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to create an email. It looks like it came from their time management system, and have her reveal her password. So she posted online. Her name is Lilu MTL, but it doesn't give me much more information. So I click on her name, shows me her photo. Oh, it looks like she has a website. So I click on her website, and it reveals her name, Aurélie Provost. And it works at Dynex Physio. So the next place I would go to find out more information about this person is LinkedIn. So I could see that she used to work for Dynex Physio, but now works for the AGDA group. Never heard of them. So by using an advanced Google search, I would type in /agda.ca with the word login in it. And this reveals two locations. And so I said, okay, here's how I'm going to do. I'm going to make it look like I'm going to send an email. Looks like it came from her time management system, and possibly have her log in and reveal her password. So the first thing I would do is I would create a lookalike domain. So it's a website name that looks like your company, except it's misspelt, like Netflix with 2 F's. So let me show you a real life demonstration I did in the audience. So you get to see how a targeted phishing attack could be used against you.
So I'll start off by creating my campaign. This is where the scammer will have hundreds or thousands of emails that he'll upload into it. Now I'll just be using my personal email for this demonstration. Now I'll configure the web page that you'll be interacting with. Since this is more of a targeted phishing attack, I already know a little bit about my fake victim by what she posts online and who she works for. So I'll send her a special email instead of sending her a link to a bank that she doesn't even deal with. Now I know that my fake victim works for a professional services company that requires consultants to enter their time. And I also know which time management solution they use. So I'm going to go to the original website that has a login page, and in one click, I can clone it. Now that my web page is set up, I'll configure the email addresses I'll be sending this to. Now, since I would have been hired for this test, I would have entered as many email addresses as possible that belong to this company that I'm attacking. But again, for this demo, I'll only use my email address. I'm all set up to go, so I'm going to push the start button. Now I get a pop-up to confirm that I want to send one email to the target list. So I'll click OK, and here we go. Now I just got a confirmation that all my emails have been sent out. One email, that is. So on the victim's end, she just received an email that looks like it came from her time management system. Now because she opened up the email, I as the attacker can see in real time that she just did that. Now I want you to pay attention to something. By now we should be conditioned to hover over links before we click on it, and that's really great. But the attackers know this, and there's a way for them to make you believe you're going to go to the right place. I apologize for all the blurred spots in this video. It's because it was a real case and I can't show you. So you can see that the link is pointing to the real company website, but if you look at the bottom left corner, there's a real link that you'll be going to. So if you don't pay attention to this, you're going to get hit. So like most people, they click the link and end up on the real looking website, except it's fake. Look at the address bar. It's got nothing to do with her company. Remember, this is a demo, so I'd never use an address like this. I'd register a domain that looks like your company, except it's misspelt. What I'm telling you is nothing new. It's how it's done, really, and 99% of the people would never know the difference. So the unwilling victim would enter her credentials, thinking that she's about to log in, except watch this. On my end, I have a status dashboard of what's happening with all the emails that I've sent out. So in my case, I can see that one email was sent out, 100% of the people opened up my email, 100% of the people clicked on my link, and 100% of the people submitted the form. I could see who submitted the form and what they typed in. This is pretty much the basis of what goes on behind the scenes whenever you receive a phishing email.
Pretty scary. So once the attacker is in your system, his job is to maintain access. And one of the things that could happen during a maintaining access phase is an actual hardening of your computer system, which means that the hackers will make your servers more secure because he doesn't want other hackers coming in from the same doors he got into, right? And take over all his hard work. So again, the computer will be hardened without your knowledge, and they're going to install things like rootkits and Trojans. Rootkits are very, very dangerous. They're nearly undetectable, and its job is to record your keystrokes, turn on the camera without the light going on, looking at all your files, copying them out. It kind of has full control of your system without your knowledge. And then he's going to try and cover up his tracks. So he might eventually clear out your logs. And if you start seeing your logs being cleared out, that is a sign that there's somebody in there. Okay, so you got to make sure you check that out. And he's going to try and hide tools in there. He may even hide tools in your printers, right? Because a lot of printers now have hard drives in them. So you never know what he's going to do, and maybe cause misdirection. So the problem we're seeing in cybersecurity is that most of it is somewhere between not working or barely working at all. Okay. A lot of companies, a lot of times we put the same recommendations in, your patch management is no good. You're not using antivirus, or you're still using paid you're still using the free antivirus instead of the paid antivirus. And the stuff is breaking, and or they don't implement half the stuff we tell them to do. And don't take my word for it. Every year, Verizon puts out a data breach report, and they show you how the top breaches are happening and such, and how they're being reported. And it's always an unrelated third party that's reporting the breach for you. So if you're a bank and you get hacked, or a company leaks their credit cards, it'll be the bank that's going to call you up and say, "Hey, I think you got hacked. Your credit cards are leaking everywhere, and our users are being frauded." So let's quickly talk about why the hackers are getting in. And a lot of times, most companies protect their networks like they protect their home. Okay, so let's quickly talk about how we protect our home. So how do we protect our home? So if you can go ahead and yell it at your screen, but let's say they've got doors and windows and locks and fences and crime watches, and which we know doesn't really work, motion detection in their house, and you may even have a gun. You got police and you have insurance. But this is not what protects our home, believe it or not. Right? It's not the alarm guy that said if you buy this alarm, you're going to be protected, right? So it's not actually that protects our home, but there is something that protects our home. And it's not a keep it out. It's not like components or any of this stuff. It's a process. And all these things have to work in a specific order, or else they won't work. And it comprises of a protection, a detection, and a response level. Now, you need to have all these in place for this to work, or else it's not going to work at all. So let me ask you a quick poll, or a little interaction here. I know you can't really see, but there's 3 columns here. One of these columns is the most important. You need all 3 to work properly, but one of them is the most important. Do you know which one that is? If you said the protection column, you are wrong. It's actually the detection column. That's the most important. And most IT people, so most non-IT people will always pick the protection column because that's what they're told, right? If you've got antivirus, you have a firewall, you got encryption, you're safe. But hackers are getting past all these technologies. And once they've bypassed that, they have no way of detecting that there's a hacker in their system. Let's take a bank for an example. When is the best time to rob a bank? Boy, I sound like a criminal. So most people would say during the day. And you'd be like, why is that? Well, because the vault is open. But it's actually not the reason why. It's because the vault manufacturer tells them, they actually tell you how long it takes to break into that vault. So for example, if you're using this model vault, well, it'll take 30 minutes using these tools. But if you got this model, it'll take 60 minutes to break into this vault using a torch or whatever it is. So they actually tell you the specifics of the protection level of these vaults. So what happens is that the crooks know that when they break into the bank, the alarm is going to go off. And they know the police will be alerted. But the police know that, hey, an alarm got triggered, which means I got 60 minutes to get over there before they actually get access to the money, which means they have time to go, pick up some donuts, show up at 55 after, and still stop the guys. Now, could you imagine if a firewall vendor had a sign on their firewall that says how long it takes to hack their firewall, right? It makes no sense. So that's why it's critically important that you have these processes in place. Again, what's interesting in our industry is that 80% of the budget is going towards the protection column. Antivirus, firewalls, encryption. Those are like your basic technologies. So what's interesting is that all 80% of the budget is going towards protection when detection is the most important, right? We need to change that mindset. And there's a good chance that there's companies on this call right now that may have malicious software running in their company right now that they did not put there. Okay, somebody else put it there. So it's very important that you get your audits done. So when we look at the whole thing here, it's not a product, it's not a keep me out. It's a protection detection and response with a focus on detection that goes across all administrative things, which means you have to have your awareness training for your employees, right? So getting the people out there who are using the data to understand what they're doing with it, and the technology that uses to help the automation of the process to keep, to automate the events to make sure that, they're actually monitoring everything. And you also want to have physical protection in place to make sure that nobody can get access to the stuff physically. So you need all 9 boxes to work together. And this is what creates security. So one of the questions I get asked is, Terry, okay, you've scared us. How do we even get started? So the first thing you need to do is get an assessment. Find out when your last assessment was done. If it's been more than a year, you need to get one. And now even more so because of these breaches. There's so many ways to get access to your system. So you have to also understand that you have to understand what you're protecting. All right. In a lot of cases, whenever a company get hit with a ransomware, it's usually new employees that have taken over the IT department from previous IT guys, and they have no idea where their software is. So for them to do a recovery, it's a very long and painful process because they have to go and find everything and such. So you have to also estimate that almost 60% of data breaches are caused by a third party. All right. So I know I'm running a bit short on time, so I'll speed this up a little bit. Also understand your people and your processes. IT folks are not cybersecurity people. So think of IT as your family doctor. Would you ever ask your family doctor to perform laser eye surgery on you? Most people would say no. So that's where a cybersecurity expert comes in and complements them. We're not there to take over their job. And trust me, we don't want their job. Okay. But we're there to complement them. So one of the things that technicians are really great at is, for example, getting you back up online because, maybe your computer crashed or you get a data breach. But what happens sometimes with these IT folks is that they destroy the evidence. So if you're working on a data breach, the insurance company is going to want to know how it happened. So they have to do like a threat assessment. But your IT guy has just deleted the evidence. Or they've configured your backup solutions, but they didn't protect it. So if you ever got hit with a ransomware, it wouldn't protect you. And also you want to make sure you test and test and test. So right now, if your IT department or your cybersecurity firm is not providing you reports, there might be a problem. So let me show you quickly what we're doing for our customers. We provide frequent reports that shows you at a glance where your computers have an issue. This is called our report card offer. So we're able to scan your environment, and it takes about 15 minutes of somebody's time. The rest, it could take a day or two on me, but just to get you started is about 15 minutes. So it doesn't take a lot of effort. And we can pull out a lot of valuable information. We'll even pull out a risk score where, during the test, we're going to do an internal and external vulnerability, a dark web scan, and a content filtering test. So we get to check your firewalls to see if it's protecting you. So it comes back with, let's say, a risk score of 100. Now, 100 is really high. Now, Terry, how on earth did you get a number this high? Well, in the reports, can say, well, we found compromised passwords on the dark web. We have critical external vulnerabilities. We have account lockout disabled. This is an important feature because if I'm able to gain access to your password or try to hack your account, I can attack you 1 million times and your account will not lock after 5 tries because that feature is turned off. Okay, so we look for all this. Things like, is your content filtering working? Can we talk to pornography websites, entertainment sites, shareware sites, because these are all channels that malicious software can get into your environment. And we'll also come back with a report of the dark web passwords that have been found for your account. We'll also give you the full report, which, this one is hundreds of pages, but it's going to show you everything from, computers that are missing patches to user accounts that are still active in your system, but haven't signed in for over a year. Okay, that's a problem. It'll even find computers that are in your network that are not part of Active Directory that have insecure listening ports on them. So this really addresses the issue where people bring their own computers to work, right? Because maybe they're bringing in vulnerable computers. So you'll receive all this, and you'll also receive a management plan. So remember that score you saw earlier of 100? Well, if you fix up these issues in this order, you'll lower that risk score. So usually these reports valued at over $5,000. But for you guys, if you tell me the promo code UAE IAA, you'll get a 30% off. So you can learn more at the psyologylabs.com/report card. So that is all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and it was informative and hopefully entertaining. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you just simply scan the QR code and we'll connect. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Terry, thank you very much. This is Nina from IAA. So I think I will say UAE IAA about 10 times. I don't know, will that translate into something worthwhile for us?
Nice.
Okay, Terry, I've posted a couple of questions that we've received in the chat window. So do you have access to it, or do you want me to repeat it for you?
I'm opening it now. What would some of the few things that are often overlooked when paying attention to security of systems, with almost everything being connected on the internet? Oh, that's a good question. There is so much things. It's actually the little things that are the most important. Things like user accounts that are still active. Patch management is the biggest issue. Right now there's a growing threat right now with the Microsoft Exchange vulnerability. So if you're using Microsoft Exchange on premise, so you have a Exchange server in your office, you are extremely vulnerable right now because there was a severe vulnerability that exists that allows hackers to gain access to your emails and cause an email business compromise. They're able to download all of your emails and possibly even ransomware you. So you need to make sure that your patching is up to date and stuff. And that's what it comes down to. Like, it's just the fundamentals. It's like most companies can't even handle the fundamentals. And that's why these audits are so important. It seems like a cat and mouse game. You get ahead of the criminals and later they get the tools to get ahead of you. Is there any consistency to be a yard ahead of them? I say, unfortunately, not. And that's why in this field, it's, it's 16 years I'm in this field. And the more I find it's a depressing field right now because a lot of solutions that we're putting in place are somewhere between not working and barely working at all. But there are some things you can do now to be a bit more proactive. So we also work with network detection and response, for example, where we're going to plug up technology that allows us to look at all the traffic that's leaving your company. And it looks for what's called indicators of compromise. What happens is that why is Sally's computer talking to this IP address every 13 minutes and 4 seconds with the same amount of data every time? Well, that is a beacon. So we're able to detect this traffic that's leaving your company. And we may even have technology in place like EDR, like CrowdStrike or Carbon Black or SentinelOne, but there's ways to circumvent those technologies as well. And that's why I think on the network side, it's going to be very important that you could at least see what's leaving your company, which will give you a kind of visibility into what's really in there. That's probably one way to stay ahead, to be honest. So if you want more information on that, I can hook you up with that as well.
Thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Terry. It was usually people, become lazy after lunch break. But today, with your active way and vitality, you made everybody vital and listening to very nicely. Thank you for that. And thank you for showcasing the detailed process of hacking. I hope nothing like that happens to me. Thank you.
I hope they didn't lose their appetite.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Looking forward to another session with you, inshallah, in your future.
Thank you.
Very much.